right, it's time for Jerry and the Goddesses, Part 21. No trigger warnings for this part. Here we go. Sarissa, Goddess of Knowledge and Learning. Inanna, I need to speak with you for a moment. Inanna turned away from a rack of cargo pants and followed Sarissa's beckon down the underwear aisle to a quiet corner. Something's happened, and I think you and maybe Gary can handle this while Jerry and I finish prepping for our journey. Inanna gave her an arch look. Are you sure you're not just trying to get some alone time with my boyfriend? Sarissa blinked. The label boyfriend seemed so out of place to her. The jealousy itself was strange. It was certainly within Inanna's portfolio, but Sarissa had never known Inanna herself to display it. After a moment's surprise at her sister's choice of words, she shook her head. No, sister, I promise you that will never happen again. Okay, then what is it? A girl with a connection to Asteram's devotee, Nick. She's gone missing. I followed her through onlookers' memories and seen that she was abducted by a man who also looks like a worshipper of Asteram. I have no knowledge of her whereabouts since. That last tidbit was important. It meant that the knowledge of the young woman's abductors was being obscured, clouded via a veil of mystical ignorance. If the knowledge Sarissa had wasn't sufficient to conclude that their brother god was involved, the blank spot in it confirmed it beyond any doubt. Well, shit. Share with me what you know about her, Inanna said, and Sarissa nodded. They each took each other's face and hands and touched foreheads. Knowledge flew from one goddess to the other. Kathy Evanson, the 17-year-old daughter of Cindy and Mark Evanson, homecoming princess, academically gifted and a sucker for any charity or cause concerning animals or homelessness. A memory from her first boyfriend of Kathy swinging a hammer for Habitat for Humanity, a wide grin on her face as the other volunteers laughed at one of her jokes. It seemed iconic of the girl. Sarissa knew that Inanna's jealousy was indeed new to her, and she was still uncomfortable in it. A shadow of guilt marred the feelings of betrayal that remained, and so she reacted in the only way she knew how. A wave of familial love flowed back as the knowledge filled her. Sarissa's dark eyes took on a faint, warm, golden sheen as her features briefly relaxed. I love you too, my sister. Inanna reviewed her new memories. Now, the question is, where have they taken her, she muttered. Sarissa's features clouded again, this time with trepidation. I hesitate to suggest such a thing, but if Nick has gotten his hands on her, you might be able to tell. Inanna's eyes widened. She realized immediately what Sarissa meant, of course. Sarissa hated to consider that they were already too late to spare the poor girl from anything traumatic, but she knew that if they were, Inanna would likely be able to figure out where she was. Inanna nodded. I'll try. Sarissa watched as her sister turned her senses inward to the source of her power. Inanna felt the armed conflicts around the world and tuned them out. They were bright, burning red and easy to distinguish. She then crossed out the glowing golden heat of passion, the cool blue ache of those beholding something beautiful, the warm yellow of familial love, the energetic violet of love for jobs and hobbies and things, and the deep brown comfortable love of old friends and married couples. That left loveless sex, prostitution and one-night stands, desperate rebounds, and pity sex fell aside as she narrowed her search. Finally, she found it. The power which she resented most and wished she could cut herself off from. Rape. The disgusting black sliminess of it permeated her, staining her and filling her head with the wretched stink of despair and anger. She flowed through it, memories of Kathy held up, attempting to match the victims. Inanna's lip twisted into a disgusted sneer, and she wondered idly if humanity was even worth saving from Asteram's embrace. Though, of course, these were but fleeting thoughts she would never seriously entertain. After a moment, her eyes focused on Sarissa again. I found her, she said in a calm, almost bored-sounding voice. Sarissa recognized that voice. It was the voice of fighter pilots and elite operators on the radio, the voice of knights and samurai discussing battle plans as the arrows flew over their head. Inanna was about to go to war. The goddesses shared a wordless nod and then returned to the two human men. Gary Johnson, Former Green Beret, current grumpy old dude with a gun. Sarissa approached Jerry, checking his cart with a quick look to ensure nothing defective had made its way in. And Nana approached Gary. Gary, there's a job for us. The grizzled veteran turned, one eyebrow raised. What kind of job? He asked, his voice as professional and calm as her own. Hostage rescue and search and destroy. What are we sapping? Assholes. Gary grinned. I like destroying assholes, he said. And Anna probably knew that wasn't true. She didn't have Sarissa's deep knowledge, but he suspected she could peer into the hearts of warriors and lovers with ease, and she would know that Gary hated killing. But she would also know that he loved meting out justice even more. And besides, it was a double entendre. She nodded, then paused, turned to him, and smirked. Took you a second, didn't it? Gary grinned at her. Sarissa was explaining to Jerry that they'd continue their preparations while Gary and Inanna took care of another matter. Jerry took it in stride, giving Inanna a hug and Gary a handshake. Gary used the handshake to pull the kid into a hug. Damn, that boy really needed to grow that spine. He had the makings of a skilled marksman and a deep well of courage to draw on, and he was, hands down, the smartest motherfucker Gary had ever met. But he was so damn insecure. Constantly tore himself down and acted like a chicken shit right up until the shit hit the fan. Gary didn't get it. Sure, the kid was socially awkward, but so was Gary. He hadn't come out of the closet to his parents until he was 23, already in the Army. And, of course, his nerves about that were unfounded. His father had, without missing a beat, responded, "Hi, gay. I'm Dad." A part of him was actually relieved to have been discharged before the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, because the policy of silence had been like a security blanket to him. He'd been out for 3 years before he went on a date in public. But he was all done lying about it now. Gary figured if he could nut up to that, Jerry ought to be able to nut up to being a competent warrior. And Gary was determined to see that through. But not right now. Right now, he had assholes to blow up. Inanna and Gary left, walking towards a sparsely occupied side parking lot and picking a space near the back of it. Okay, Gary, what's your preferred loadout for a hostage rescue in an urban environment with plenty of civilian background starting at about 150 yards out? Gary didn't need to think much. Heavy plate carrier, shoulder pads and flaps, LWRC 6.8 Razorback with the burst fire enabled and the barrel cut down to 11 inches. That's going to need the shroud from an M4A2, by the way, to fit right. MR10 scope with an Ultra Dot LT on the top rail. Ultra Dot zeroed at 25, scope to 100. Old school BDUs like I used to wear, but charcoal gray. Knee pads, elbow pads, tactical gloves with knuckle protection, and no trigger finger sleeve on my left hand. 13 mags, one in the gun, the rest in the belly of the carrier. 2 M67s on my left breast, 3 M84s on my right. Mark 23 in a drop leg holster on my left thigh with 2 extra mags in a pouch. Suppressors fixed on both guns. Same boots I got on now. That should be it other than what I've already got with me. Inanna nodded, and in the blink of an eye, Gary was kitted out exactly to his specs. He checked his belt, and sure enough, his troll doll was there. He gave the thing a squeeze for luck and looked up. Inanna was kitted out much the same, except that she was carrying an MP5 SD as her primary, and had stuck with the red dot sights. That was fine by Gary. He didn't really expect to shoot much at range, he just wanted to cover his bases. So tell me something, he said. Why are we shopping for gear when you could do this? Inanna gave him a little wink. Easier for you and Jerry to handle mentally. You'll keep better tabs on what we have if we just magic up the money to pay for it instead of materializing the gear itself. Besides, it takes a lot out of me to do this for non-military gear, and the results aren't always the best. I know what kind of hiking backpack makes a good sub for an assault pack, but what kind is best for what we'll be doing? She shrugged. Sarissa knows, but I don't. And as far as military gear goes, it's more or less the opposite. Sarissa knows what experienced warriors think about the question, but that doesn't mean they're always correct. In the time it took her and I to sort out exactly what to materialize, we could have finished shopping anyways. Fair enough, Gary said. So how are we getting there? I'm going to teleport us. I'd get one of those flashbangs ready if I were you. And Anna got one of her own ready. When we arrive, just roll it forward a few feet. I'll protect us from the effects. Gary nodded, grabbing one of his flashbangs and raising his rifle with the other hand. An eye blink later, the parking lot was empty. The end.